Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner who has a product, a service, or a message that you believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind-the-scenes look into the real-world marketing and networking tactics and strategies for getting what you have in front of you to a lot more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and now let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode for a number of reasons. Obviously, we have another interview coming up today, but also it's around a topic that I feel isn't talked about enough, verbalized enough, or mentioned enough, and it's the area of accounting. Now, for those that are listening to this, this could be a little bit of a stomach churning type of episode because in entrepreneurship, in business ownership, there's certain aspects of our business that you would maybe quantify as not fun, where, you're not selling. Sometimes you don't want to look at what's going on in your business. And what Nancy and I have realized from day one is having a good sense and a hold of everything that's going on with our company, our profit and loss statements, what's our ROI, what are our KPIs, our key performance indicators, do we have all of the necessary money slotted and set aside for our quarterly taxes? All of those things will help you run a more profitable business. And that is exactly why I have the guest that I have on with us today. So with all that behind us, David Adderson, welcome to today's episode.
Thank you. Hello.
So obviously, we're going to be talking all things accounting and things that obviously entrepreneurs and business owners can do. But let's rewind the tape, so to speak. So what was it about accounting itself as a profession or a path to go down? Or what do you feel was the light bulb moment for you that said, you know what, there's something about math, numbers, accounting, and I want to make this my profession. I want to make this my business.
So I guess this comes from an early age. Math, I was always fairly good at math. That was kind of a standout thing. So middle school, instead of doing a different language, I did math, which is strange when I talk about it now, but it was great when I did it. And then growing up, playing games. So a huge thing I noticed was even playing things like GTA, Grand Theft Auto. I would be the guy that would go and start a business. I would be the guy that tried to make money instead of spending it, and I would protect it. So I guess like all the way through in all the games that I've played, I've always been the one that's, there'd be 4 or 5 of us. Some people would just be running around shooting people, shooting things, doing whatever it is that they do in these games. I would be the one that's sat back. Okay, how do we make more money in this? Even though it has no relevance to the game whatsoever, that's what I do. So I guess that's where I started, and that's where I realized it would work.
So again, now being in accounting and having your accounting firm and entrepreneurship, business ownership, it's not all black and white. There are some nuances and some things that obviously people need to understand. But from your perspective, when you got into accounting in the earlier days of when you started, what were some aspects of accounting that directly related to business growth that you weren't aware of, that some businesses maybe need to have in place, or maybe they weren't focusing on these things at all?
So the accounting that people aren't focused. So if I guess the big thing is, I think you've mentioned it, it's the P&L. It's understanding, are they actually making money? And equally, the P&L doesn't always relate to cash. And it's trying to explain to people that actually cash flow is very different to the P&L. And it's understanding that actually, yes, you've got a tax bill to pay this quarter, or put some money aside for your tax bill that's due in 9 months or 12 months. Because if you start to understand how that works, then you're prepared for when it comes to it, and you can just pay the tax as it is. what I've seen is a lot of people struggle to do that. So they won't put money aside, they won't prepare for it, or they won't be aware of it. So a previous accountancy firm I worked at, uh, we get to do the accounts, and then you get 9 months to pay. However, the accounts were done after 9 months on the payment date. And to tell somebody that they have a 20 grand tax bill, 30 grand tax bill, oh, and you need to go and make it today, that's the shock. That's the big upset. So that's something that we try and work away from is, okay, fine, it might still be a 30 grand tax bill. However, you've got 9 months to decide what you're going to do and how you're going to deal with it, which means it's a lot easier to do. And I get that some people still like to bury their heads in the sand and ignore it, but at least they're aware of their numbers. So tracking the numbers is huge.
As people get started in business, and again, I think for some people, if they're working for someone else, it's a little bit easier to have their taxes done. In the States here, they get something called a W-2, and you basically can do it through TurboTax or send it off to your accountant. It's done. But for someone that is an LLC or an S corp, that is growing their own business, in the very beginning, when someone starts their business, do you feel it's more important to maybe just have a bookkeeper to kind of teach them the ropes and show them how to do things, or is getting involved and partnering with an accounting firm, whether it be small or large, is that an essential part when someone is starting their business from ground zero?
I would say absolutely. The earlier you can talk to an accountant, the better, because there's so many different things that you could do. It's, do you register for certain taxes? Do you look at structuring your company in a certain way? Do you even things like buying electric vehicles or petrol vehicles or diesel or mileage or however you do it? There's so many different ways to doing everything and recording it all. What I found is the biggest problem is a lot of companies don't approach the accountant until too late. Once you've already made them payments and you've already agreed to get that in that way, that's when it's too late. If you speak to your accountant before you get there, they can tell you, oh, if you do it this way, if you get a lease, if you buy it outright, if you do a hire purchase, suddenly then it's tax deductible and reducing your tax heavily. So that is, I would say, find an accountant that you can talk to. You might not need to engage with them. You might not need to have them signed up kind of annually. It might just be a one-off meeting, but definitely get involved as soon as you can and get the advice, because they're fortunate enough to talk to hundreds of different business owners, and they can tell you exactly what works and what doesn't work.
What are some basic mistakes, I would say small mistakes, that end up compounding into a bigger mistake that you see a lot of new business owners or entrepreneurs making when it comes to the accounting side of their business?
So a lot of the time it's very basic things like recording, so bookkeeping, recording things in the wrong place. So for example, I've seen people put fuel receipts on the system, but they put it to motor vehicles, which is actually a fixed asset that goes on the balance sheet. So suddenly then you've got a few hundred quid's worth of fuel on a balance sheet as an asset. Now that's something that gets horrendous and needs to be unwound instantly. So it's recording things in the right places and putting things in the right. So the way I try and describe it is the P&L is like a filing system. You're just putting the receipts in the right file all the time, and it's just making sure you use the right files at all times.
For me, it's really understanding that, I still, because we meet with our accountant every quarter, and again, because we used to meet just at the end of the year, but what we found, it was more detrimental, kind of compounding things that maybe needed to be fixed along the way. That's why we meet quarterly, just to kind of see what's going on. How close are we to the monetary projections that we put out there? But as you mentioned, he can say, well, why is this categorized here? Do you need this switched over to here? And again, you don't have to be as diligent as, my wife and I are, but understanding that you do need another set of impartial eyes on your business is so key because, David, to your point, when a business owner is focused on the task at hand, which is growing their business, there are some aspects of accounting that kind of A, aren't focused on, or B, get pushed to the side where it can end up biting them in the rear end by the end of the year. So it is really important to make sure that you have those set of eyes. Now, what is, through the experience, because, again, how many different firms have you been a part of?
So I've worked at two now.
So what would you say between the two different firms that you worked at? What was the big difference between the two firms, either from, boutique size or, large size, and how did it end up landing you where you are right now?
So I'd say one was quite a traditional kind of, you deal with the work, you do sole trader accounts, or you do kind of one man bands. It was very much, you saw the clients at the end of the year, you took their books and records that they had, and you told them how much tax they owed. There was no kind of advice. There was no kind of, it is what it is. There you go. Good luck. Make your payment, and we'll see you next year. Then the second one is a lot more proactive with, as you say, it's almost seeing them quarterly, seeing them monthly, even. It's growing companies. It's companies that are really thriving at the moment, or even over the last few years, they've even thrived. So it's because they understand their numbers, they can actually make their business decisions, and they're making it from before the end of the tax year, which means it's included in their end of year figures before the, the tax is worked out, rather than too late and then we don't have a clue how to change it, and it's already too late to change the previous year. So we're always kind of working behind in the previous one, whereas in this second practice that I work out now, it's a lot more proactive and a lot more visible for the numbers for everyone.
So we were talking in the pre-show about some things that, obviously you're focusing on differently, that, some are of these accounting tactics are being utilized in the US, but not yet in the UK. Share with the audience a little bit about what you guys are doing that's really unique and obviously is making you stand out a little bit more in that space.
So I'm heavy on apps and technology, so we're pulling that in, but we're being really proactive as we can. So again, we're doing tax returns, we're doing projections, we're looking at the future rather than the past. So what we're doing is we're working closely, almost as an external finance function to our clients, and they can use us, call us as and when, almost any time. I won't say any time because some of us do sleep, but it's being available and accessible at all times, and their numbers being available and accessible at all times. So if they do call and they say, "Can I go and buy this car tonight?" Yeah, no problem, and do it this way because that's the most tax efficient way of doing it. Whereas again, a lot of traditional practices wouldn't even have that conversation. It would just be purchased at the end of the year. It would be, oh, you've got a tax bill on that because of you've got an extra benefit in kind, or you've got an extra tax bill to pay because you've done it that way.
Now, as we're in 2023 now, and the world is changing, the way that people are doing business is changing. There's more people, A, working remotely, and B, starting their own e-commerce business or online business. What benefit from what you see? Because obviously, I'm sure you've worked with traditional brick and mortar businesses where they have a storefront. You've worked with employees of those brick and mortar businesses, but I'm sure you have some business owners that are more in the online space. From what you have seen from your experience and professional opinion, what advantages or disadvantages do you see in the prototypical business model, brick and mortar, employees, all that stuff, compared to someone like myself and my wife that run an online business with multiple products and services that are being offered with a team of contractors behind us. What are you seeing in this new world of entrepreneurship?
So I find it quite exciting. So there's the brick and mortar tend to be more traditional people. They tend to be kind of, without being too stereotypical, they tend to be older, and I guess a generational thing. Um, so what I'm seeing is almost they are very stuck in their ways. If it's not broken, don't change it. Whereas a lot of the newer, younger kind of businesses that are coming through, the online ones, they're really open to apps, technology, streamlining, the efficiencies that are available, and they are really, really taking a grasp of that. And that is putting them in front of the bigger businesses. So you can almost be a small one-man band on your own, competing with a corporation that is, I don't know, ridiculous, Coca-Cola, for example, and you can almost compete with these size companies by just having that online brand and that online presence. So it's opening up the industries incredibly for small business, and it's a very exciting time to be around.
As we start to wind down, something that comes up often, between conversations of myself and my wife, but other entrepreneurs, um, if you are talking directly to that entrepreneur, that new business owner, what's the number one best piece of advice you can give them? Not only, in starting this aspect of their business with accounting, but I know that nothing can be promised or guaranteed, but what is something that business owner or entrepreneur can do from an accounting standpoint to make sure that there are no surprises, there are no, hidden pieces of mail from the IRS or whatever saying that you owe this tax? What's your best piece of advice for that person that's just getting started and making sure that all their accounting is in place?
So I would say essentially you need to have a software in place. Now we use Xero, there's QuickBooks, there's Sage. I think QuickBooks is definitely the most popular in the US. Equally, it's probably one of the most popular here. Xero is definitely a close second for both, but I would make sure you have one of them in place. You can get subscriptions for £5, £10 a month, and or $5 or $10 a month. Equally, that is the key piece of software that you can use, and you can build out of that. You can build your full sales function. As long as everything automates to your accounting software, that will make your life so much easier. And look at that before you start anything else.
Yeah, my wife and I both use QuickBooks. We have two different LLCs, and it's great because we can give our accountant and our online business manager access to our QuickBook files where they can reconcile, they can kind of see the KPIs, and there's no extra cost for that. When you pay for the subscription, as you said, for QuickBooks or whatever you're using, it allows you to then streamline that process because you'll end up saving money in the end. Because we used to get dinged because our accountant used to have to reconcile all of our books by hand. We would have to send them all of our monthly bank statements, and then they had to reconcile it from that. When you have, as you mentioned, an automated software like QuickBooks, it's automatically reconciling it for you, categorizing everything, so it's more of an automated process. So I could not agree more. For that entrepreneur that's getting started out, having something like QuickBooks, which is very affordable to anyone, is a great place to get started. So everything is much more organized, streamlined, and simplified. So, David, as we start to wind down, tell the audience a little bit about what you have going on. And if someone, no matter whether they're listening to this from the States or the UK, if they wanted to learn more about you and obviously the firm that you're with, as far as how you can help them in their business, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
So through the website, through email, I've kind of put my fingers in a lot of pies. I've got a podcast going. I've got the website going. I've got a lot of face-to-face stuff in the UK, but equally for the US, like probably the best protocol is the website, WhatsApp, LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a huge one for me.
And what's the website where people should go to check you out?
Utopia.co.uk. So
Awesome. And
YOUTOPIA. We put our little twist on it. So that's putting you in Utopia.
awesome. And, that link obviously will be in the description of the episode. So anyone that's listening, you're not going to have to go too far in order to find it or connect with David. So David, final question before we sign off. What does success truly mean to you?
So this is something I talk about a lot. It's having your enough, whatever you find your enough to be, because I think money is probably the fifth or sixth thing down on our list of what is most important to us. Because if I directly compare them, if I said your health compared to money, you would always choose your health. If you were going to die tomorrow but could have £1 million by doing it, you'd rather carry on. So what I like to think is what is enough. So it's finding the right enough money to live, finding enough time to be present at home, to spend life doing what you want to do, and it's balancing all of that around. That's what I see as successful.
I love that. And again, it's all about prioritizing what is most important to us. And as you mentioned, yeah, I mean, money ends up being, sometimes fifth, sixth, seventh on the list, because the money ends up being a side effect of the impact that we end up having. So, David, I just wanted to thank you so much for being here today. I know for a lot of people, they don't hear enough about accounting, enough about bookkeeping, and it's really important to raise attention and awareness around this because, again, we want people to get saved from those frustrations or those tax bills or those things that come up that may end up hurting their business instead of helping them. So, again, grateful that we were able to do this interview today, and thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for having me on. It's been good fun.
Absolutely. So again, for those that are listening, the link to David's website is going to be in the episode and the description. So please check him out if he could be of any service or help to you. And again, wherever you're listening to this to and from, please don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating and review, and let us know what you love most about the episode. And then also in the description of this episode, for anyone that is interested in subscribing to the subscription aspect of networking and marketing made simple, I do bonus episodes every single Friday that are privy to those that have the $2.99 membership. So again, yes, it's under $3 a month, and you unlock 4 bonus episodes a month that only you and you only can listen to. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much again for checking out today's episode. And if you are listening through iTunes, Spotify, wherever you are, please leave me a rating and review. Let me know what you loved, what you would like to see improved, or ideas you have for future episodes. And if you are interested in taking your business to the next level, don't hesitate to go to my website, www.scottaaron.net, where you can schedule a free discovery call with me, where I can learn more about you, your business, what you're struggling with, and how we can work together. And don't forget to check out my wife, Nancy, and mine, our free community on Facebook called LinkedIn Leads for Life. We would love to see you in there. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you, everyone, for your support. Grateful for each and every one of you.